Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Good evening, wherever you are on our most lovely planet. I'm Ariel.
I'm Shia.
Welcome to being here.
Yes.
Today's theme, you ready? Clutter is comfortable.
I think it depends on the person.
How do you mean?
Well, some people are fastidious in all ways, and clutter bothers them. Other people find comfort in it because the structure is reduced.
Well, maybe we should change it. Is clutter comfortable? Make it a question mark. We can do anything we want.
Well,
it's our show.
That's true. I think it's comfortable in a way when you don't want to finish things to completion. You just leave them. And that way, if you have enough confusion around you, you feel safe. Otherwise, you get seen. You know, if you clean up all the clutter around you, then suddenly you're what's left behind. And then you're visible to be seen. And it for a lot of people, that's not terribly comfortable because we have history of being seen in school, and it was uncomfortable.
Oh, yes.
See?
You don't remember so much the times when it was comfortable or easy, or the days it was non-confrontational.
People create distraction around them so they can hide and not be seen. You know, it's like blending in with life. If you have enough clutter around you, they won't see you.
Well, there's also this natural thing of entropy. Where everything is in order and it devolves.
Well, it's like we vacuum our house, and within a week, it needs to be vacuumed again. Actually, within a day or two, it needs to be vacuumed again. We have a cat now, and she sheds hair.
They should be called dust bunnies. They should be called dust kitties. I have little mini kitties. I don't know if you have been with us before, but even if you have, just an idea here that listening is key. It's so easy to go off and think.
Well, you know, I was rather bold in what I said.
Yes.
And people could disagree with that. Well, see, agreeing and disagreeing isn't listening. When you listen, you allow what's being said to come in without agreeing or disagreeing, to hear what's being said. But most frequently, we interrupt the flow of what's being said by either saying, oh, yeah, I know that, I agree, or no, that's not right. So there's an internal commentary going on about what the speaker is saying, rather than holding that commentary in abeyance and actually letting what they say come into you.
I love that word, abeyance.
Me too.
It's not about getting rid of the commentary. It's about setting it aside so that you can be here. So I know that whilst we are doing this via Zoom and there is a video component, we release it as an audio. So you can't particularly use your eyes.
You can't particularly see how gorgeous Ariel looks with her new haircut.
Thank you. Yeah, 6 months and 3 days since I've had a professional haircut, and I was very happy to get one. My head feels significantly lighter. I should weigh myself. I bet I lost weight. All right, shall we take our first guest? All right. Hi.
Hi, this is Sandy from Prague in Europe.
Nice to have you here.
Where is Prague? Isn't that in the Czech Republic?
Yes, it is.
And where is the Czech Republic?
It's east of Germany, where I usually live.
It's east of Germany.
East, north.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
So welcome to the show. What can we do for you?
Talking about clutter.
Yes.
Since I met you guys, clutter in my life has turned. I used to have a really messy room all the time as a kid and also growing up. And now it's clutter bothers me, but I can tell when like I start developing clutter. I'm capable of turning my whole apartment into a mess within a couple of hours. When
It
That's
takes you that
love.
long.
Minutes.
Well, I know, like, as you mentioned, you're in Prague, you're visiting your husband who's working on a film there. And when you go home, you'll have your bags. And when
your bag, doesn't your bag explode when you get home like ours did?
you unzip it and all the contents that have been compressed in there, it's like a jack in the box. It kind of like explodes out. So for us, it never took 2 hours.
Well, for me, sometimes when I come home from a trip, it'll be like within a very short amount of time, everything will be cleaned up and put away. And other times, it's like all over.
So
Yes.
let me ask you a question about those times. What is the difference in your mental state when you come home and put everything away and everything's done and complete, and the times that you come home and everything clutters everywhere?
I believe it's when my mind is cluttered, when I've got like all of these commands to myself of what I have to do and when I should do it and how I should do it, and I should be better and I should, have it all done already. And then usually that makes a mess. But if I'm just doing what I'm doing, it's pretty easy.
I love how you articulated that. I've never heard it quite that way before, Sandy. When you said, I have all these commands to myself, where you're telling yourself, in command must have a component of must. You must do this and you must get this done. And by 10 o'clock, you must do that. And by 4 o'clock, you must have that. And the whole conversation itself interferes with seeing what's next and actually actuating what's next.
It's very interesting when you say it interferes with seeing what's next. Because I noticed yesterday when I was out on the river, the river is a place where I spend a lot of my time because I fly fish. And I was noticing how my internal conversation would get noisy at certain points. And other times I was just there. But I would see something and then the voice would tell me what I just saw.
Have that a lot.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's very wild how.
And then like an echo, it keeps repeating in my head as if I hadn't heard it the first time. It's like, now get the cream for this dish. Now we have, like as if I didn't know how to do it. It's really crazy.
Yes, it doesn't treat you like you're an adult.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And yeah.
Go ahead.
Hanging out with you guys is just, I notice it even on the Saturdays, the regular Saturdays that we have, or the eventual Tuesday evening and Monday nights, just attending the seminars. It's like, it kind of like all quiets down, and then it's, it's not constantly chattering because I'm practicing listening with you guys.
Well, that's what's so very interesting, because I just noticed it in myself. When I truly listen to you, that voice quiets. The voice is not talking when I'm listening, really listening to hear what you have to say. When I get disinterested, so I say, the voice says, I am disinterested, or this isn't a subject that I'm interested in. And the interesting thing is life shows up the way it does, and you can disregard those things that aren't interesting, or you get interested, and then you have a lot more life.
We were recently speaking to someone who has been experiencing some challenges in her life. And we were talking to her about discovering how to be interested rather than interesting. Having a conversation with herself. Oh, maybe I should talk about this because that would be interesting. Rather engaging with what's happening in front of her and listening non-preferentially. And that's part of why we call them Living Made Easy seminars, because in that 2-hour framework on the Mondays, Tuesdays, or Saturdays that you were describing, the subject will wander through generally a very vast array of different subjects with people from all over the world. And if you follow each as though each has equal weight, importance, liveliness, however you want to describe it, by the simple act of following the moment like that, it does release you from that conversation. Similar to, I'm sure, as people are listening to this podcast, if you really listen.
There's two ways of listening. There's one where you try to apply what's being said to you and how you're doing in your life. Well, that doesn't seem to work very well, because as you try to apply it, you're not really listening anymore, because you can't listen and think at the same time. But if you really listen, you discover you don't need that thought process very much. You can interact with your life directly rather than think about how to. You can just look and know how to. Because the interesting thing is that we are appropriate when we're present.
I like that. And yeah, I noticed it a while ago too. I was starting to think of, when Ariel was giving an example, I was thinking of an example that I might have, and then I noticed it and stopped so I could be with you guys again and really listen.
Yeah, that's really beautiful, that you see that your mind activates when you're trying to predict or determine how the future will show up so that you look beautiful and smart.
Yeah.
Rather than discover the moment as it unfolds. I mean, I notice that all the time if I have to talk to somebody about something that I don't think is going to be a comfortable conversation. My mind wants to pre-plan what I'm going to say. And I always find it's very much different if I just stand there in front of that person and see what needs to be said, rather than figure it out in advance. Because life doesn't show up like you figure.
Yeah. I had that example this morning, actually. Yesterday, I had, a situation with a colleague, and I needed to tell her that this wasn't working. And her dog had just died, and I didn't, I felt I should hesitate or something. But then this morning, I just called her and said, listen, I just told her what was real for me. And she thanked me at the end and said, hey, thank you for being so open and honest. And just sidetracked there a little bit, but.
Well, not really, because as you're describing it, Sandy, if the conversation you had was anywhere similar to how you're relating it, you weren't blaming her for any disturbance in you. You were explaining or articulating what wasn't working in the situation. I think a lot of people have challenges because there's a disconnect, something doesn't work, you feel disturbed. And then it's like, well, you disturbed me because you did X, as opposed to this happened and I found it disturbing, or it doesn't feel like it's working. One is dumping your energy on the other person, and the other is communicating.
The other is declutterifying.
Right. Cool. Yeah. That would have just cluttered up our relationship.
Very cool.
Say that again.
That would have cluttered up their relationship.
Oh, yes.
Sweet. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Thanks for being with us today.
I enjoy it very much.
We enjoy you very much. And it's really cool that we have Zoom that we can see you.
Whilst in Prague.
Yes.
Yeah, that's so awesome. It's just a way of being connected that hadn't been possible in the past.
That's true.
Well, please give our love to Benedict.
I will. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Hey, you want to hear about transformation?
Mm-hmm.
We've got one of our listeners about to tell you about what's happened in their life out of listening to being here.
I'm Michel from Basel, Switzerland. And it is okay not to always have a plan, but just let the universe take care of things. That's one of the things I learned with transformation, and it's just a gift.
Do you want to have well-being with consistency? Connect with people all over the world from the comfort of your own home at Ariel & Shire's lively interactive Living Made Easy virtual seminars. Join any of their 2-hour online events or take a deep dive into the magic of being you at a virtual weekend seminar. Come on, let's connect. Find out more and register at transformationmadeeasy.com.
We have several upcoming courses, one of which is this weekend. Transformational time and project management.
So we don't give you a bunch of A, B, and C priorities. We don't tell you how to do it.
You do enough of that yourself.
But with transformation, in an instant, the way you relate to your projects can shift in a way that they get done easily, effortlessly. And
particularly because when you're here, you actually look and see you're not dictating or commanding to yourself what you need to do next.
Well, that's interesting because yesterday I vacuumed the kitchen floor, but I didn't vacuum the whole kitchen floor. I just vacuumed the stuff that needed to leave.
So you weren't doing vacuuming.
Onion peels that had fallen to the floor during cooking, that's what I vacuumed. I didn't vacuum all the cracks and crannies to try to get rid of what wasn't there.
That's very cool.
I thought so too.
One of the things Shai was talking to me about on the break was how when you command yourself, I have to clean that up, it gives you an opportunity to resist.
To disagree with that, don't tell me what to do mechanism that lives in us that doesn't like to be dictated to.
That's right. We want to be independent, even from our voice. Also,
we call it procrastination.
It's not too early to start. Mark in your calendars or even register for June. We're doing a magical relationships weekend, June 26th and 27th. Perfect timing because people are starting to be able to open up and actually get out there and date with people. And certainly as we've been on our own, if you're really here, you've been seeing how you relate. So it's not so much about dating as it is having magical relationships with everyone, most particularly with yourself. Did you have something?
Well, it started early on, and by the time I stopped trying to hold it and listen to you, it was long gone.
Well, thank you for listening.
It had something to do with that you should not attend our Magical Relationships workshop if you want to continue the fight with your life and anybody related to you.
Yeah, fair warning that if you come, that may fall away.
Yes.
So
then you might have to discover how to be intimate with people rather than set up an environment of clutter to have to work your way through.
Actually, I think any of our seminars are really a dangerous place to attend if you don't want to meet the possibility of how much of a genius you are and how brilliant you are and how unbroken you are, or what?
Or have your life show up newly rather than the same as yesterday and the day before.
Oh, lovely. Let's take our
next caller.
Yeah.
Steve.
Hey, Steve.
Hi, this is Steve in Manhattan, and I love this topic, and it's really very apropos for me right now because I just moved into a new apartment, and clutter is always something that comes up in such a case. But I had since attending your seminars, I found myself getting much more organized and efficient in all sorts of ways, including the cleanliness of my surroundings, which wasn't historically always the case. And I found this recent move to be a really seamless process, and I really enjoyed, and it got done very quickly and efficiently. And I don't really have a question, just an observation, really. I just notice that these things happen when I'm right in the moment. But if I plan them, if I think about them, as Shai just had some great points about not being told, wanting to be told what to do. And I find that to be the case with me very strong, especially by myself. So if I'm telling myself I need to clean the dishes and do it, it's almost guaranteed not to be done.
That's right.
So is that a way of buying yourself a little more time?
Or is that a way of avoiding intimacy by keeping a cluttered apartment? You don't have to bring somebody home to your cluttered apartment.
Yeah, it's probably all those things, yes. I notice I have a temptation. My mind wants to make this all mean something, but I'm just seeing it. It is really not. It is really. I mean, there are certain things I keep cluttered just because that's been my system and I know where things are. But I don't know if that's a default or what it is. I mean, it's just there.
You know, we can get lost in trying to figure that out.
And making clutter bad.
No. But I kind of like the idea that your life has gotten easier.
Yeah.
And you haven't done anything to make it easier. You stopped doing things that used to clutter it more, that's all.
Yeah.
You used to have a story as to who you were. Now, of course, you still do to some degree, but you don't live through that story anymore. And I can tell that by looking at your apartment as we're doing this via Zoom. So I see, now it may be that you knew you were coming over.
so you cleaned up this area.
However, that you cleaned up the area says something about how you're going about your life these days. And
but I want to talk about something because I see that our conversation might inadvertently head people into a direction of thinking clutter is bad, non-clutter good. And that is definitely what happens in that change modality, and with the starting point that we need improvement. So you're going to look around and you'll see the areas that are still cluttered, and you will try to analyze it. And all that is change. You want to go from bad and move to good. You want to progress. You want to get better. And in that, you generally resist what is. And the first principle of instantaneous transformation is anything you resist persists, grows stronger, dominates your life. Similar to what you were talking about the dishes. You don't recognize you have dishes to do. You talk to yourself that you give yourself a dictate, but that's in direct resistance to what is, and what you resist persists.
So you keep the dishes in the sink.
And third principle, anything you see completes itself. So I can look over here on the right of me, outside of your view. We had somebody come over and haul away some supplies we no longer needed. And one of the things that we found were old files, including the registration forms from Costa Rica, 2007, 2008, things like that, courses that we did. And whilst I'm certain anybody's Visa, MasterCard things are way out of date, it seemed irresponsible to chuck those off to somebody else. So I've been shredding them, but our shredder is a little, I can do 2 of them at a time. So I have years worth. And so it's been a project. So I can look over there and go, oh, I got to get that done. Or third principle, anything you see without judging, and that includes this forward dictation, completes itself. I'd be really surprised if it doesn't just naturally happen in the framework of things within the hour after we complete this podcast, just because I've seen it, I've recognized it, and it'll be very easy. But if I look at it as if that's proof that I'm not doing my life right, everything gets bogged down.
Well, I like the second principle because you can't do your life wrong. See, you can't have been anywhere that you were in the past. You couldn't have been in any different situation than you were in. You can't be anywhere other than where you are in the current moment. So that being the case, it's time to, have some fun with your life because you didn't do anything wrong in the first place. It all got you to this moment.
Yeah, I've found that to be a very comforting principle in some way. I really love the second principle because I've been in a number of different career and educational paths, and I used to have a lot of regrets that I didn't do this or that. And now I see that it all led me to where I am now and I'm fairly successful now.
Barely?
Very. I mean, I have a beautiful apartment in Manhattan. I don't own it, but that's possible in the near future too. But this wouldn't have been conceivable to me even, I don't know, 5, 6 years ago, certainly not before I met you. And it was just about getting in, seeing what was there and being able to step into the opportunities that I didn't previously recognize.
It's very funny, Steve, as you're talking about how you recognize things that have opened up for you in the last 5 or 6 years, and you use living in your beautiful apartment in Manhattan as a benchmark or an example for success. I think it's kind of funny how we can't see ourselves.
Yeah.
Because whilst your apartment is lovely, and truly it's fun to see you in your new place and to see the rugs on the floor and the splashes of color and just how you've organized things, and even your blinds behind you. I mean, that's really fun. What I see in you is the ease in yourself that has emerged, the way you're able to articulate yourself, the relaxation, without making you crazy, how handsome you've gotten.
Okay, so you made him a little crazy.
A little crazy.
I'm always happy to hear. Thank you. No, it's not planning any of this, but just doing has really been wonderful.
Well, you can only plan from what you already know. Yeah. So the possibility of your having such a nice apartment 5 or 6 years ago just didn't exist in your list of possibilities. You couldn't even imagine it. You couldn't imagine having the job you have now.
Yeah.
But life provides.
You could even go closer in. There was a while there where you were searching for this apartment, and you couldn't have imagined this apartment before you stepped into it. But when you stepped into it, you were able to recognize it. This is the one.
Yes. I looked at a couple. This was the first one, but I just to be safe checked others. But I knew this was the one I was going to take. And
You sound like us.
When we found this house that we live in.
It was the first one we walked into. It was like, oh, this is perfect. Then we looked at
about a dozen.
I looked at a few others, and then I worried this would disappear. So I quickly called the agent, said this.
Good move.
And it all happened in very easily, like 3-4 days. But I looked at 9 or 10 places. I was able to do it quickly. It was wonderful.
That's great.
And even now, I found, I could regret what happened at the last place, which started out nice, but for a variety of reasons became less tenable. Or I could see that having gone through that experience made me better aware and prepared for this.
Well, it's interesting.
Know what to look for. Yeah.
It reminds me of yesterday we went and had haircuts, and there was someone at the haircutters that had known me 40 years ago, and I didn't remember them at all. I don't try to remember what happened in the past because it would take me out of the current moment of my life. Now, sometimes thoughts from the past show up and I look at them. Of course, that is the current moment. But to try to remember what happened before is, in my opinion, a huge waste of this moment of your life.
Yeah. I mean, I'm cursed with the good memory, but I'm able to bypass it now.
That's right.
I love it.
I like the way that you say that. Good for you.
I want to mention something while we're talking to you, because I'm seeing you and I'm recalling it. We do have a video subscription series called Living Made Easy on Demand. And I know we've done some videos with you, some of which have been recorded in Costa Rica, and then we do ones via Zoom as well. And I wanted to mention it because I imagine people who listen to this podcast each week get a lot of value. And some people may either want to have an extra support system in addition to this, or in addition to coming to weekends. Some may not want to come to weekends and may like this type of format, but with a visual. The Living Made Easy on Demand series allows you to have a video each week in your inbox. There's a place where you can write in questions, which we answer. There are special articles each month, sometimes more than once a month, depends. And it's a year-long subscription that supports you in having Living Made Easy.
Well, I noticed that we did not in this podcast yet speak about our technology. That it is not psychotherapeutic or problem solution oriented. It's about discovering how to access the current moment of your life and live in that current moment. And then, surprisingly, you stop creating the problems you used to create for yourself. So it doesn't have to be problem solution oriented. You don't have the problems that you need a solution for.
Yeah, it's been, I do subscribe to the Living Made Easy on Demand and listen to the podcasts and attend seminars. And I found they all reinforce that it's a beautiful, it's a very, I don't know how to, I'm trying for the right words, but anyway, it's very invigorating because my programming has been just the opposite over, my upbringing. And this has really been great. A great new approach to life.
Yeah, well, you don't have a effective upbringing. You're normal.
I just want to mention that upbringing that you had made you curious enough that you could step into what we're offering here.
And that upbringing was the foundation of your finding us, finding yourself, living the way you're living now, having life be easy. Without the upbringing, it's all part of the same package.
Similar?
You can't reject that.
Mm-hmm.
See, most people reject their upbringing to discover who they are. but then they're just not their upbringing, and they're not discovering. It's still in relationship to that upbringing, rather than just live your life.
You know, it's interesting how you said it, Steve, that you could either have regrets, and I'm adding this, or resentments about the last apartment you're in, or you can recognize you wouldn't be in this apartment without it, and that you learned a lot of things about what made that untenable so that you can have this, you know, you can see things, so it doesn't have to go down that road. Similar to our childhoods, our upbringings, they all are part and parcel of what brought us to this moment. And the idea that you're perfect is in that second principle that you like so much, that this moment is perfect. So clearly when we started this podcast with you, it was perfect. And if we go back 40 years, whatever was happening in that moment was perfect too. Couldn't be any different.
Now, back then, you probably disagreed with what was showing up in your life.
As did most of us.
Because that's the way normally people live, in disagreement with what is, thinking that if they change it or fix it or make it better, then somehow they'll be happy. But
yeah, I was addicted to change then, you know, the idea that and looking for the answer and the solution. This would be the perfect career path, this, you know, the education, etc.
yeah,
And it never, but it led me to where I am now.
so there you have it, man.
Yeah, so it is perfect.
Excellent. Hey, thanks for joining us today. Really a
Yes.
treat
Thank
speaking
you.
with you.
Thank you. It was great, great being with you.
Excellent.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hey, if you enjoyed today's podcast, you can always leave a review on your favorite podcast app. It helps others people find being here. And next week's podcast, the episode is on dating, relating, and mating. We thought we may as well make it a little racy. By the way, looking forward to see many of you this weekend at Transformational Time and Project Management. And if you want to join us, it's not too late. We are still offering scholarship arrangements for people who've been impacted by COVID. So if you want to come and you find that your finances have been restricted due to the fallout from the pandemic, reach out to us and let us know. Thanks for being with us today. We hope to have you back with us next week. So come on back.
And don't miss
Being here.